Have we always been at war with pneumonia? Caleb Howe at Red State yesterday went on at length about how all morning on Sunday, the press and celebrities and political operatives and social media clingers fretted and insisted and cajoled and freaked out and scolded anyone who dared question the official story from the Hillary Clinton campaign that her collapse, caught on citizen camera thanks to media incuriosity, was due to being overheated and dehydrated, and then a touch of pneumonia, walking pneumonia, which her whole staff had. It was going around. We were told how hot and humid it was, how heavy her clothes were, or, well, how about how heavy she is? How easy it is to succumb to it, how unusually out of place weather like this was. Not if you've ever seen Die Hard with a Vengeance, it isn't. We were even warned that this was a sign of bigger global warmy things that were more important than the small-minded concern that maybe falling into the arms of AIDS and being physically lifted and placed into a vehicle isn't a super great sign of healthiness. And if you shared or even had doubts or questions, you are a monster! A hater of women. You! Because no one would question a man collapsing that way. Remember when Bob Dole fell off that stage 20 years ago? Or perhaps you're a misogynist or misogynistic because heat uniquely affects women and you fail to acknowledge that. It depends on which Twitter timeline to which you subject yourself. You are a conspirator, a disrespecter of 9/11, or bad as a birther or a truther. Only this story was false. She didn't experience this supposed totally normal, happens to women all the time incident of nothing to worry about, simple overheating. No, it turns out that she instead was, in fact, ill, sick as a dog. She was diagnosed with pneumonia, and we got the report from the doctor saying so. Her health, you see, was poor. And just as a reminder, pneumonia is when your lungs start filling up with fluid so that you can't breathe. My mother one time had a lung and a half full of pneumonia. I mean, my mother could have passed away, well, that was 1972, so she could have passed away 40 years before she actually did. So, trust me, I know something about it. My wife had walking pneumonia 20 years ago, as I recall. So I know something about pneumonia. Heck, my father earlier this summer had a touch of pneumonia as a complication from his catheter plugging up again. Now here comes the amazing part. The same people, the same angry quit talking about her health people who were lectured for hours about how obvious and sense-making it was that she collapsed from heat, the exact same people jumped on the pneumonia news and bragged about it like it was their victory, as if it validated their point. See? We told you she wasn't dying of some secret disease. She just has a severe case of walking pneumonia that caused her to collapse. Yay? Indeed, not only that, but as was repeated robotically by every Clinton machine out there, she was a badass for soldiering on under such conditions. Rather than being stupid, or maybe suicidally so, she was heroic, courageous. Get that? Her illness proves how super healthy she is. Oh. and also somehow made them right to claim it was overheating. This isn't even spin. Spin is an insufficient word. It is a sharknado of revisionism. It is a Tipler slingshot maneuver bending the time axes of the space-time continuum. Pass the Dramamine, please. Now, when it was floated, or when the idea was floated of bringing back the phrase thought police the other day, nobody could have had any idea how soon we'd see a total 1984 rewrite of this magnitude. The giant face has appeared on the screen and told us that we have always been at war with pneumonia. We note often that 2016 is a crappy year in politics with two ridiculous candidates fighting for the win and three other candidates fighting to make a point. But I'll give it this. It has taken the very worst and stupidest things in our politics and made them so much more awful and preposterous that they are now entirely visible and exposed. We've turned on the lights and the roaches did not flee, donned top hats and tails and put on a huge dance number. What a year. But I do have to point something out, folks, as an addendum to Caleb Howe's piece at Red State yesterday. You know what else, folks? That sharknado of revisionism is going to work. Because I lived through the 90s, and I remember them well. I remember the jaw-droppingly, gobsmackingly, absurdly audacious BS that flowed out of La Quinta Nostra like a mighty fetid river on a daily basis. And I remember thinking also on a daily basis, oh, come on, there's no way the public's going to buy or fall for that one. They've finally gone too far. They're finished now. And on a daily basis, the public would buy it. And the next one, and the next one, and the next one. They never stopped buying them. It was a horrific smorgasbord of coprophagia, culminating in Mr. Bill sexually abusing an intern, committing a merry-go-round of crimes to cover it up, getting impeached, and his approval ratings coming close to hitting triple digits. And why? Because Bill Clinton was Donald Trump before there was Donald Trump. He was entertaining. He was reality TV before there was reality TV. And the public wanted to be fooled. Just like Trumplicans today. And there are way more voters who want to be fooled by Hillary Clinton, even if just out of 90s nostalgia, than there are Trumplicans. And if the marks are desperate to be skinned, the con artist doesn't even have to be good at it because the con will put over itself. And remember one other fact, ladies and gentlemen. The American electorate is a lot dumber and a lot more gullible across the board today than it was in the 1990s. Kimberly Ross, meanwhile, at Red State, makes an excellent point yesterday. You consider Hillary Clinton's health to be a problem? Then you shouldn't have nominated Donald Trump. I don't know how many times I've had to say that, and I will continue to have to say that. There are many issues I have with Hillary Clinton, but her actual physical health ranks low on my list. Do I believe a president should be generally healthy? Absolutely. The office demands much, and campaigning is just the start. The actual illness which should disqualify Hillary from the presidency is liberalism, which is worse for the presidency than any physical problems that she might happen to have. Could we possibly focus on legitimate reasons she should never hold the highest office in the land? There are plenty of those we could be discussing, but we're not because Donald Trump is just as much of a liberal Democrat as Mrs. Clinton is, so they really don't have any issue disagreements to speak of. Now, if there's anything this election cycle has exposed, it's how ridiculous prone we can be. Trump is the GOP nominee. Voters looked past actual conservatives with solid experience and platforms and chose reality TV show boy instead. Sean Hannity and his ilk have always been like this, whether Fox News devotees want to admit it or not. Ann Coulter's brand of crass emotionalism hasn't changed in any way. Mark Levin's shrill back and forth is nothing new. Rush Limbaugh has often teetered between focusing on solid issues and preying upon his audience's thirst for political theater. And I say this as a longtime Rush listener and, well, now former one. No, you are not going to convince liberals that Hillary is a bad choice for president. In fact, you won't convince some registered Republicans either. Trump's absurd ascendancy has pushed some to consider voting for the other side for the first time in their lives. Not me, of course. I will be voting for neither one. You want to know who I'll be voting for? Evan McMillan. That's who I'll be voting for. The never-Trump independent conservative. But in an election cycle that praises the superficial and unserious, Hillary's vagina and Trump's little fingers, we should be focusing upon the substantial, emphasis on should be. We won't, but we should be. But then if we did that, it would just highlight the fact that we've got two liberal Democrats as the major party presidential candidates now, wouldn't it? Crowds of Trump supporters analyze her coughing spells and declare she's unfit for office, but Hillary's unelectability, well, what would otherwise have been Hillary's unelectability, is not predicated upon her physical health. She is deplorable for nearly every other reason. If the GOP wanted to promote a serious contender against Hillary, who would coherently call her out on stuff that actually matters, then Trump should not have been the nominee. Instead, Republicans continue to stoop to the side of their opponent and attempt to claim the moral high ground, while Trump leads the way into the gutter. What does the drama surrounding Hillary's physical health actually show? Well, it's yet another glimpse of the secrecy so prevalent among La Clinton Nostra. Mrs. Clinton clearly wasn't feeling well, but a fainting spell had to occur before the announcement that she was dealing with pneumonia. What else did it reveal? That no matter what, Hillary's vagina will always be used to excuse her and accuse others. Oh, such as Patton Oswalt, who tweeted, "Wait, so Hillary has pneumonia and she's still campaigning as hard as she is? You realize how badass that is, right?" To press Jennifer Granholm, the abysmally incompetent former governor of Michigan, to press lamenting Hillary Clinton's health and transparency, powering through illness is what women do, stoically, every single day. I am woman, hear me roar. And you can... I won't. I don't need those kind of negative comments in the comments below. I just want positive ones. Just post them in the comments below. Or how about Joyce Carol Oates, who tweeted, "Ambulatory pneumonia, very exhausting. You would have to have an indomitable will and considerable strength just to keep upright." Here it is. Heroic. How about stupid? Hillary isn't heroic. She isn't badass. Having an illness and powering through your workday is a feat both regular men and women perform. I've done it before. Yet these are the things slobbering liberals associate with her health drama. Cannot we on the right shoot these and other merits down with actual substance? Well, we could have if we had nominated an actual serious conservative nominee rather than a New York liberal con man and Hillary Clinton's close personal friend. More importantly, the Hillary Clinton playbook is not new to us. If we wanted to successfully and coherently fight back against it in a presidential campaign, then Trump should not have been the nominee. Period! Which brings us to today and Leon Wolf's noticing that Trump's campaign manager is suddenly opposing any release of her candidate's medical records. That's interesting. Everything that for which Trumplicans are criticizing Hillary Clinton today with regard to Coughgate, or whatever you want to call it, is equally as true of Donald Trump, as it always is. For those of us who paid attention to the primary, it's almost tiresome how predictable this all is. After spending weeks on the trail bashing Ted Cruz for the fact that Goldman Sachs owned him because Cruz had taken out a loan from Goldman Sachs, it was revealed that Trump himself was in hock to virtually every bank on Wall Street to the tune of several $100 million. Over and over again throughout the campaign, whenever Trump went on the offensive against one of his rivals, you could bet that he was trying to deflect attention from his own problems in that regard, in classic "me-think thou dost protest too much" fashion. So, Trump at his campaign spent months implying that Hillary Clinton had an undisclosed medical condition. This made it virtually certain that Trump is hiding some medical issues of his own just because that's how he operates. Well, when it turned out that Mrs. Clinton really did have some health issues that got forced into the public spotlight, the press went from disdainfully treating the issue like a conspiracy theory to turning their attention to Trump's health. And what an opportunity this would have been for him to release all his medical records. Every damned last one of them. Prove that he was really Super Trump! No, I'm not joking about that. Roger Stone put out a pro-Trump ad, photoshopping Trump's head onto Superman's body with a T instead of an S. Super Trump! Well, release the medical records and prove it. How about that? Release the medical records and prove it. Well, that's not what they're doing. As the press noted, Trump himself was weirdly not taunting Hillary for having suffered the most embarrassing moment of her campaign. Gee, I wonder why. Enter Trump's campaign manager Kellyanne Conway on MSNBC today.
So what are we going to learn about the medical condition, his health report, tomorrow from Donald Trump?
Well, Mr. Trump had a physical late last week, Andrea, in advance of us knowing that Hillary Clinton had pneumonia, or obviously what happened on 9/11 in the tape we've all seen. So he had that physical late last week because he believes that it's important for the public to know what his basic health condition is. And he has said that the doctor is preparing his report and that it will be made available this week.
And was it with Dr. Bornstein?
That I don't know. I was not present for his physical.
So we don't know if this is the same doctor who released that report in December, that, well, very brief, 4 or 5 paragraph letter.
Well, but remember, Andrew, I mean, I'm with Dr. Oz and millions of Americans on this. I don't know why we need such extensive medical reporting when we all have a right to privacy. And frankly, I'm also with most of the American people who are very upset that many of them had to change doctors after many years with their doctors under Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act.
Now look, it is perfectly obvious that Mrs. Clinton doesn't have perfect health because there's almost no such thing as a 70-year-old human being who does. Well, guess what? Trump is even older than Hillary. And he's male, so he's farther along the aging curve. And there's no evidence that he has ever done or gone to any sort of lengths to take care of himself, physically speaking. The chances that Trump himself has a number of background physical issues really are pretty close to 100%. But Trump is probably even more insecure about letting on that there's anything physically wrong than Mrs. Clinton is. So now you see this furious scrambling to say, no one ever said we should release health records to say everything. So all talk about Hillary Clinton being as opaque as a light year of degenerate matter, that's absolutely true. But you know what else? It's absolutely true of Donald Trump as well. None of the above, people. None of the above.